Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's product management event. I'm going to go over a few things here at the beginning. Oh, it's saying I'm muted, but can everybody hear me okay? Oh, I don't know why it's saying I'm muted, but all right, I am not muted, program. Amazing, amazing. Well, welcome. Thank you, everyone, for joining. We're going to kick this all off in just a minute. Yes, the entire Farhan, the entire presentation today is going to be recorded and will be sent out to everyone after the event. So feel free to take screenshots, feel free to take photos, write notes, or you can literally just sit back and enjoy the content and you'll get a whole copy of it sent out afterwards. So good, appreciate you guys can hear me. I don't know why, if I could show you my screen right now, it keeps saying you are muted, unmute to speak. No, I'm not. No, I'm not. I swear I'm here. So, perfect. So in the bottom right corner, guys, there is the chat function. Obviously, we are all conversing there already, so you guys have found that. Beside that, there is a questions tab. In the questions tab, what we're going to do is we're going to loop back at the very end of the session and do some audience Q&A. So if you guys put any questions in there and we don't get to it right away, the goal is we're trying to get back to it at the end. So we're not ignoring you outright, I swear. We're going to come back there at the end. So there's that. I'll probably put a poll in here a little bit later on, and I'll mention when I do. Likely right after the main presentation has finished, I'll drop a poll in there. And then obviously the people tab, you can see all the people who are in the space right now. I'll probably end up repeating myself just a few times for folks who kind of trickle in a little bit later, just for things like me mentioning that the session's recorded. This whole session will be recorded and sent out to everybody after the fact. So probably hear me say that just a few times. All that aside, I usually like to invite people to share where they are joining from today. Where are you guys joining this session from in the world? Toronto, Montreal, Toronto. Ooh, lots of Ontario here. Toronto, Ottawa, Toronto. Milton, that's where my dog was from years ago. I got my dog from Milton, Ontario. London, Vancouver, Montreal, amazing. Well, thank you so much, guys. Thanks everyone for joining from all over the place. Waterloo. I've been to most of these places here. Halifax, I have not. Welcome in Halifax. Cool. And then something else I usually like to invite you guys to share in the chat at the beginning is why are you joining today's session? Are you excited about product management? Is it new for you? You know, just kind of share what's exciting. Are you just excited to hear from a professional in working at Microsoft? You know, whatever the case may be. New role, looking to pivot from sales to product management. Cool. Learn about product management from Microsoft. Awesome. Just to learn, professional perspective. Amazing. Well, these are all perfect responses. There's no wrong answer to this, but these are all perfectly aligned with what we'll be presenting here today. So awesome. Okay, well, I will move this over here and I can officially get the presentation started. One thing I will put into the chat really quickly. So we are not focused on our bootcamp today or the courses that we offer through McGill or University of Toronto. However, obviously, we do offer boot camps and we do offer a product management specific one through those universities. So I will share a little bit of information on that throughout the presentation. But just in case anybody's wanting to take a look at what we specifically offer through the universities, those are the two links there that'll take you right to the course pages for the product management bootcamp at McGill and at the University of Toronto. So. And I'll share that again later if anybody wants, but just thought I'd drop it in at the beginning here for you guys. And I can move into the next slide here. There we go. So yeah, I'll start off by introducing myself. So my name is Tyler Trapp. I am the event host today. I'm also the marketing event manager at CircuitStream. And I have been doing this for just over 3 years. Before this, I worked in travel and tourism. And yeah, very, very different world. But as it did for many, COVID kind of changed the trajectory of what I was doing. And very happy to be working in tech education now, or in just education. I guess we've expanded beyond tech here too. So amazing. We will also have a guest speaker. Ralph, you don't have to come up on the stage yet. I'm going to invite you up in just a few minutes, but Ralph is, as noted on the main part of the event here, he's the Senior Product Manager at Microsoft. And he's going to share some general tips about product management, but more specifically, he's going to kind of go over how to build a successful product spec. So really cool session. He's just saying hey in the chat there to everyone. And on that note too, when he's on stage presenting, he probably won't be able to respond too much in the chat. But when I'm on stage, feel free to interact with him, ask questions, say things. Likewise to me when he's on stage, and we'll do our best to interact, but we'll do that audience Q&A together, all as a group at the very end too. So I'm going to share a little bit about us at Circuit Stream to kick off the presentation. So Circuit Stream, we began in 2015 through a network of developers, designers, creators, and we are now a leading provider of learning in different spaces like AR, VR, game development, design, product management, software development. We've also just expanded recently. Last year we were offering youth courses for teens leading into university and college, and now we've actually expanded beyond that, and we are going to be offering youth courses even younger than that, going a few years below. So I think it goes down to 8 or 9. And they are just kind of the beginning foundation courses, things like playing with Roblox, or building like a base Mario game, things like that. So really cool. If you guys know anybody who is younger, or if you've got any friends, parents, people who have some little ones who are looking to get started early, the courses are amazing, and those are available through the universities as well. So feel free to let us know. On the screen here, you can see some of our partners. We've got some of the corporate partners listed there on the left, and on the right there is our university partners listed. So why launch a career in product management? Product manager is an interdisciplinary position that collaborates with different departments to guarantee the success of a new product. Product managers have a dynamic career with opportunities to shape innovative products and have measurable impact on a company's success. On screen, you can see some of the top reasons why people would choose to work as product managers. And again, in case anyone is trickled in or came in after I started the session at the beginning, this will all be completely recorded and sent out via email to everyone at the end of the session, usually within an hour or so after the session finishes. So feel free to take notes, guys, but feel free to just kind of sit back and relax and enjoy the information here. I say that as I'm going to share a couple stats here. So usually people are asking if they'll have access to this after, but acquiring product management skills in Canada positions individuals to excel in a variety of industries and contribute to economic growth. With a rapidly growing technology sector and thriving startup ecosystem in cities like Toronto, Montreal, Vancouver, and Waterloo, product managers play a vital role in driving innovation and ensuring companies deliver products that meet market needs. According to LinkedIn, I just checked this morning, actually, between Ontario and Quebec alone, there are currently over 700 job postings just for product management positions. And that's not even expanding. I just looked for product managers. I didn't even expand beyond that and look for additional titles and roles. So very strong need for product managers everywhere. But that's just kind of giving you guys a glimpse of the two provinces that I think most of you guys are going to be joining us here today from. So there are many different titles that they can be hired for. So this is what I was saying, alluding to a second ago, like product strategists, growth product managers, product marketers. I didn't search any of those for that stat. So the number of available positions is probably quite a bit larger than what I just stated. But the average salary for a product manager in Canada is $109,000, and that's according to Glassdoor from 2023 there. Now, a little bit about the bootcamp. I mentioned today, we're not going to focus entirely on this. The session is much more industry focused, but in case there's anybody in the crowd that's just curious about it, I shared the links at the beginning of the session, and I'm just going to talk briefly about the bootcamp here that we offer. It's a hands-on 21-week product management bootcamp. It's both online and project-based. It has 5 hours of live class per week, 2.5 hours of technical biweekly career labs, and 10 hours of independent study. There's weekly assignments, in-class challenges, portfolio projects, and students complete a capstone project at the end of the bootcamp. It is designed for those interested in learning the essential practices of product management, from strategic planning and feature development to agile execution. The program's comprehensive curriculum is designed to provide a full spectrum of understanding of the product lifecycle, ensuring that you are adept in guiding products from their initial conception all the way straight through to market dominance. Product management is a great career opportunity with lots of growth potential. This is why we've collaborated with McGill and the University of Toronto to offer this 21-week hands-on bootcamp that basically can get your career launched if you are looking to move into product management. So just a little bit about our bootcamp there. The course itself, there's different outcomes. Through in-depth modules like Product Management Foundation, students gain a solid understanding of the roles and responsibilities, how they navigate product development stages, and how they use data to inform strategic decisions. Graduates are also educated in market insights and product strategy, feature ideation and development, agile execution and team dynamics, product positioning and growth, and data mastery and decision making. And they also receive career development support, and they get certifications once they complete the course, which would also be reflected through the university partners there. And speaking of career development, I'm just going to share some quick information on that portion of our boot camps. This is not specific to product management. It's worth noting that this is for all of the boot camps that we offer, but because we're kind of focused on it today, this of course would be specific to product management for now. But our career labs teach students how to leverage technical and behavioral strengths, gain awareness of the digital ecosystem, create compelling portfolios, elevate digital presence, learn how to network effectively, and become interview ready for industry jobs. Our career networking support in the boot camps really does set our programs apart from others that you may find. The reality is that every student coming to us has completely different objectives coming in the gate, but those who are looking for new jobs or to improve on their current positions, they definitely find this aspect of the course incredibly helpful. And finally, part of the career support, we run a pitch day, student pitch day at the end of the boot camps, and allow the students to present their capstone projects to industry professionals. So people like Ralph may even be invited to future pitch days here, but basically we would just bring in professionals from the industry, people who can provide immediate feedback and give guidance. But more importantly, we're looking for people who may have opportunities available, contract roles, internships, just things that our students can kind of look forward to or move into once they've completed the course, to gain more experience on top of the portfolio that they'll build in the course itself. So that's a little bit about the pitch day. And lastly on that part is this is just showing some of the hiring partners that we have for the product management bootcamp. This certainly isn't all of them. I just threw some of the logos on the ones that were closest to the top of the list when I did it. But this just gives you guys a quick little snapshot of some of the companies that could be in the space there, looking to hire or provide contract work or give advice out to the students that are presenting. So without further ado, that was my intro. Hopefully it wasn't too long there for you guys. I'm going to officially invite Ralph up on stage. Ralph is from Microsoft. He's a senior product manager with a passion for continuous self-development. He's joining us today to share his tips on product management overall, but more specifically, like I said before, on how to build a successful product specification. So welcome to the stage, Ralph.
Oh, can you hear me, everyone?
Perfect.
Okay, perfect.
I'm going to close my presentation, Ralph, and get it out of the way there for you.
No worries. No worries. All right. Awesome. I'm just looking at the chat. I have the chat on my left here, presentation in the center.
Hey, Ralph, can you hear?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
No. Unless it's on my end here. I think he's muted. He might be.
Hello? Hello?
Oh, you can hear Ralph? I'm so sorry. I don't know what's going on my side here. I can't hear you, Ralph, so.
Okay.
I didn't mean to interrupt you then. I'm so sorry. All right, I will step off the stage here, Ralph. I'll figure out my sound, and I'll let you take it away.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, just let me know, everyone, if you can't hear me at any time, we lose connection, anything like that. I have the chat here on the left side, so I'm watching as we go. This presentation is really about writing a product spec, which is one of the most pivotal things in product management. If you cannot write a product spec, it is very hard to do anything else in product management, because this is essentially just communication in the written form. And I'm not a great writer. I don't have a master's degree in grammar or English or anything like that, but I know how to communicate my ideas that are in my head and formulate them on a piece of paper. And that is all this is. So it is not that scary if you have an idea that you verbally tell your friends, tell your family, or just talk with others about. This is the exact same thing, and putting into a formally defined structure that can help your engineering teams, your design teams, your actual product teams execute features end to end. So a little bit about me. My name is Ralph Maamari. I work as a senior product manager on Microsoft Teams in the day. And at night, I work as the chief product officer on this little startup called Savvy Finance, which is basically helping people manage their personal finances in a way that's not all about budgeting or saving, but really about specializing towards your goals and your intentions. So that's both really cool things to work on. I'm really appreciative to have both these opportunities. And I do some services on the side, just mentorship, resume review, some career coaching. But I do love working with organizations, especially career accelerators and programs such as these ones. So if you are looking to level up your product management career in a more refined or intensive process, I would definitely reach out to Tyler after this event and try and get into the program if you can. Hopefully, I'm invited back to do more talks about different things, because this is just a product spec, and there are multiple domains and dimensions to product management, such as strategy, such as communication skills, such as how do we be innovative in a late stage market versus an early stage market. That's all topics we won't be discussing today, although if I see them in the chat, could get to them in the Q&A. Today, we'll just focus on the most critical element of product management, which is writing a product spec. And just a little bit about my career before the stuff I'm doing right now. I've worked in entrepreneurship, so I've built organizations, I've built large events, I've built for-profit and non-profit events and startups as well as worked at small, medium, and large companies. So I've done it all, had the beautiful experience of trying everything, and now I know exactly what I like to do. Okay. So with that being said, let's go down to what is product management. So product management, a lot of people don't actually know what it is. So to get it out of the way and get it clarified, let's talk about what it is and what it isn't. So first of all, it is not program management. It is a portion of program management, but program management is really product and project management intertwined together. So if you have like a PMP certification, or you like doing project management and working in these big teams and doing feature delivery, but you also like doing product management, then program management is the intermix of both of those combined. So if you're looking for, hey, am I looking for a product role? A program role has half-half, okay? Sometimes it leans more towards the project management half, which is also not what product management is. Product management is not about being an agile scrum master or a leader or managing the Jira board or telling people, hey, is this done, is that done, or what the exact timelines of things will be, although it is at times. Project management is more about the process of shipping, whereas product management is more about what are we going to build? What is the innovative thing that we want to move into a market with? It's not technical program management. That's also quite confusing. Technical program management is really about the technical dependencies of a project. So in any idea that you have, there'll be some sort of back-end, front-end, interface, API that you'll need to connect with. There's so many dependencies in building processes, especially at scale, that a technical program manager helps manage those dependencies, manage the timelines, keeps people up to date, make sure that things are shipping as they are in the right sequence of things. And so that's not what product management is. It's not also product designer. That sometimes is confused, very rarely though, but sometimes confused with product designer, which is more about the design of the product. So this is more around UI, UX. Product management does have components of UI, UX. You should have a good eye for design if possible with product management to visualize or envision what your experience will be, but it is not required. It is not, you don't need to master Figma or master Sketch or any Adobe tools to be a product manager. And lastly, it's not a dictator. A lot of people think, the product manager is the CEO. I get to dictate when things are done, how things are done. Everyone is kind of like following my command. It really isn't. It really is more about being a leader and really pushing the team from the back from a supportive role. Okay, and so for those of you, I saw in the chat, someone was asking about software engineering versus product management. There's a very big difference between product managers and software engineers, and that software engineers, you are at the execution phase of really building the thing. So your work is very measurable. It's very impactful. I can see the lines of code. I can see what you've shipped, the quality of your work. Whereas with product management, what you are shipping is more ideas and specs. And so sometimes it may feel that especially in a product manager role, that you're not actually doing anything, even though you are the master orchestrator of these massive teams that are shipping really, really big things. Similar to a project manager where you may feel like, what am I really doing here? But without you, the project would never ship. So that is the difference between an engineering or an IC role in design or engineering versus a more quote unquote managerial role, which is product manager. So what is product management then if it is none of those things? Well, the first thing is it's about vision. It's about having an idea about a market, an industry, a problem that you want to solve. How do you want to resolve that? And what is your unique perspective into solving that? Okay, it's about defining what to build. Do we want to build project A? Do we want to build project B? Do you want to build all three, project A, B, C? Can we get clarity and scope on what is needed to solve this problem in the most effective way? Lastly, it's about applying insights. So when we get data, you don't have to necessarily understand how to get the data, program the data, feed it into SQL and all these large data lakes, but rather you need to know once the data is in front of you, how can you apply those insights into making better products? How can we make products better from what customers are telling us and also what customers are not telling us as well? And the last two things is just being a good communicator and having consensus building. So when you're trying to make a decision, how do you align all your stakeholders in the room to really deliver that direction forward? It is not a one-person dictatorship. It is a team effort. You are, at the end of the day, responsible for results, and you're, at the end of the day, responsible for making sure that people are aware of the expectations and requirements for the entire pipeline. One thing I like to say is look at the world around you. Okay, figure out what problems there are and how would you measure the success of them. So a lot of you may take notes in your notes notepad or notes.io or Evernote or whatever to-do tool you use, but take those ideas that you already have and see how can you measure the success of those ideas. So if you were to launch that idea you have, that product, that feature, that hardware device, what would success really mean and how would you measure it? We'll talk about that more at the end, but that's a little tip you can write down in your notes as we go throughout the slides. Okay, so table of contents, what are we going to cover today? Well, there's a lot of portions of what a spec is. This is just the 10 that I've identified to be the most critical of any spec. I think they should be, quite honestly, the basics of the spec itself. If you don't have these, you don't have a spec. So we'll cover all of these today, and then we'll get through and hopefully everybody understands each section. So what is a spec? A spec is a thinking document. It is an execution supporting document for design and engineering to understand what do you want to build, what are the requirements, and how do we get this out the door. You don't need to know how to design it. It is not a design file. You do not have to create high fidelity prototypes or mocks of what you want built. I mean, that's always helpful, although that's more of a design's role. But really, it's just about what do we want to build and how deep of a thought have you had on it. And what I mean by this is you may say, I want to build a travel application. But a travel application is quite broad. Get specific. What about a travel application you want to build? Is it the booking process? Is it the reservation for the hotel end of process? Is it even before, like, what do you want to do with your life process? Is it an adventure trip? Is it a relaxation trip? Get clear with your spec on what vertical domain do you want to solve in that industry and be really, really specific, because unlike a business plan, which is more around the industry you want to enter, a spec is more about here is the exact way we're going to build the feature. Okay? Okay, so first section on any spec is why are we building this? Why all of a sudden did you have this great idea to build this problem? Did you walk past your local coffee shop and realize, hey, we need to disrupt this market because coffee is too expensive these days? What's going on? So here's a few examples. Canada's inflation increases by 500%. Okay, that's an event. What's the opportunity? Well, the opportunity is now we can help consumers manage their finances because people will not understand how inflation affects their finances. Great, that's one thing. Canada launches no taxes on GST for a few months. Okay, what does that mean? No taxes on what? Consumers want to know now what that includes and a way to track that so you can help consumers save money with maybe like a budgeting app. Maybe the Canadian dollar becomes weaker than the US. Okay, well then how can you help customers convert currency? Maybe we need to build a spec for currency conversion. So the opportunity is really about why are we building what you're proposing today, okay? It could be industry innovation. It could be, for example, an AI revolution. There's ChatGPT 3.5. We're now able to build things we've never thought possible before. This is the why. It could be there's a legal or government rule change. An industry has just opened up or closed down. What does that mean for us? How can we enter that market? What's the feature we can build to take advantage of that opportunity? It could be your competitor has launched a similar feature that you were thinking of. Well, let's accelerate your idea, and if it's better or worse, how can we refine that to make it more competitive with our industry competitors in your organization, in your industry, basically. Or it could be just customer asks or world trends, or even just on Reddit. If people are complaining on Reddit about something, can you solve their problem? If you can, and that problem is monetizable, great, you have a successful business. That's as easy as it gets. Okay, let's go down to personas and user jobs. So once you've identified the opportunity, the reason of why you want to build what you want to build, who are you building it for? If we're building this budgeting app, is it for students who don't have a lot of income? Is it for executives who may have a lot of income and just don't know how to track the vast assets that they have? Is it for retirees that are kind of at their end of state, they're not really getting new income, and they're just wondering, how much longer is my personal runway? How much longer can I afford rent with the current income that I have and the rate of return of investments that I have at the same time? So who is the person you're solving this for? It cannot be everyone. A common misconception, especially when people talk about things they want to build, is that this applies to everyone. Products rarely apply to everyone. Everyone is different. Everyone is unique. Everyone has different life experiences and stories. So we need to really focus in on who we are targeting and why we are targeting that specific person. Okay, what is the user jobs, which is more like, as a person, I want to solve this because of X, Y, and Z. And so at this stage, once you've identified the person that you're targeting, the audience, and get really specific, even the slide is not specific enough. So students, what kind of students? Students at a college, students at a university, students who are overseas students, international students, students who are local to the area, students who eat takeout twice a week, students who buy their food or get their food from home. What is the exact student you're targeting? Is it biology students, technology students, right? I can go on for days about the exact type of student that you're targeting, the exact type of industry or person that you're trying to focus on for this specific feature. Okay. Okay, let's go down. So in the solution requirements portion, what is how do you get it clear on what you actually want? The first thing is avoiding subjective adjectives. This is probably the most common mistake PMs do, especially junior PMs, but I've seen many types of PMs do the same mistake, using things that are subjective. The word fast is subjective. To me, if a web page doesn't load in 200 milliseconds or less, that is not fast. To you, if the website loads in under 2 seconds, that may be considered fast, right? So everyone has a different interpretation of the word fast. So can we get away from subjective adjectives and be very clear with what we want? When we request our analytics on our how much we spend this month, maybe, can that load within 500 milliseconds, right? Can we be clear with that requirement? Words like sharp, you want a sharp design. I don't know if you've ever told a designer you want something sharp. They will look at you with a very strange face. Try to be clear on what you want in the design, or really just, I wouldn't even go into the design and tell them what to build. I'd tell them the requirements and let them figure out how to design it. I may have ideas. I may draw some sketches from time to time to lean them towards a specific direction. But at the end of the day, they're the designer. Let them do the design, and you focus on what is the requirement, what do you want, and trust your team to deliver your vision as long as you are clear with it. Efficient is also a very common one. I want to efficiently build this product, or let's build this efficiently. Efficiently is very subjective. What does efficient mean to you? Does it mean low cost of goods? Does it mean burn as much money as possible, but get it out as quickly as you can? Let's be very clear about what exactly we want. Even if you say burn as much money as possible, that's very subjective. What is a lot of money? Is it $1 million? Is it $5,000? Be specific with what exactly you want. And so a great framework to do requirements is this very famous, very standard framework. As a person or user or student or couple or executive, who is your person that you're targeting? X. I want Y. So I want to be able to manage my finances, to see how much I'm spending every month. Okay, so Y is the problem. So that Z, so that I can have peace of mind with my finances. So I'm not stressed on a monthly basis with, am I spending too much on takeout, or am I spending too much on my rent? What's going on, right? So as an X, I want Y, so that Z. Just say this out loud to yourself to remind yourself this statement. This is the most important statement. If you remember nothing from today, just remember this structure so that you can apply it to when you're building requirements to get super clear. It's a great it's great requirement when paired with the 5 whys, which is, why do you want this, right? If someone says, oh, I want an app to track my finances, I'm like, why do you want that? And they're like, oh, because, tracking finances is hard. So if you just stop there and you're like, okay, they said they want to track their finances, I'll go build a little form that you can put all your information into and it tracks your finances. And I'll give it to the customer and they won't use it. And I'll be like, wait, I'm the product manager. I asked them what they want. They said they want a budget tracking app. They're not using it. Why are they not using it? Because they did not want a budget tracking app. That was the surface. You need to get down to the depth, okay? You need to say, okay, I did not just want a budget tracking app. I wanted a budget tracking app that automatically syncs my transactions from my bank because I do want to track my budget. I just don't want to do it manually, okay? So that is the level of depth that you should go into. And usually we ask why 5 times. Like, why do you even want to track it at all as well? Do you even need to see the transactions or do you just want to see the insights page, right? What is the exact thing that customers want? That's what you need to dig into. So with the solution and the requirements portion, you have to be empathetic. And this is why I hate it when product managers in speaking engagements say, and product managers are very empathetic, because you cannot connect that to a real action. What it means when they're saying empathetic is it means, can you understand what they want and why they want it? Okay? Can you live in their shoes, breathe their problem, close your eyes, envision you're living in their life today? Would what you're building truly solve their issue, or would it add more work to their plate? Do they now have to log every transaction that they do, which would increase their stress, right? So think about the entire product interaction flow in the entire life cycle of what you're trying to do. Not just, oh, I'm going to have an app, but how do they download the app? How do they discover your feature? How do they see where your feature lives? Do they get an email notification? Is it like when they do a certain action, like spend $500, you send them a push notification that says, watch out on your spending? How do I discover, introduce your feature, engage with your feature? Can I edit the transaction if they were recorded incorrectly? And conclude using your feature? Am I done with the budgeting app once I've achieved my goal? Or do I have to keep using it afterwards? So what is the entire product flow? What's different from a business analyst in this case, just looking in the chat here, is that a business analyst will look at the industries, the broader perspective, right? They'll say, consumers are having trouble with their finances. Debt is rising. We need a solution to solve this broad industry problem. But by building a budgeting app has thousands of features, an insights page, a transactions list, an overview page to track stock markets. Each of those are very deep domain verticals. I could say, oh, let's just build a stock market tracker, but you'll never use it because there's a product manager at the company next door who's saying, what are we going to build for a stock market tracker? What do consumers care about? Do they care about the ticker symbol? Do they care about the amount of the stock? Do they care about the historical average? They'll ask these deep questions to understand the true user job that they're solving for, and then build it when it's fully fleshed out and really well defined. And if you're thinking at this point, that sounds like a lot of work, I just want to ship things quickly and I don't want to do all this breadth and depth of requirements gathering, then you can certainly do that, but those are different types of companies, right? It will not be what a product manager is. That's more of an idea generator, which is great, but doesn't lead well into execution because people won't know exactly what you need. You'll end up with a product that doesn't even match the vision that you had. But more importantly, it's not well thought out. If you look at how Apple builds solutions, they spend a lot of time on even the most simplest things, how the button feels, the sound that's emitted from when you click on a button, which contributes to a holistic understanding of a product experience end to end. And while it might seem small, it's better in today's world where there is so much innovation. There's so much things you can build. You can build thousands of tools in seconds to really build something that's meaningful, highly refined, and perfectly solves the problem end to end. Because you can solve 10,000 problems badly, or you can solve one problem perfectly. I would rather you solve one problem perfectly because there are a billion people in the world. Give everybody a shot at solving the problem. We have Excel, which is great at solving a bunch of problems, but how many people really enjoy tracking their finances in Excel? And I mean truly enjoy, other than the fact that you have no other really great options because some have shut down like Mint, or some are just very, very expensive. Okay, so think about problems and really define them as much as you can. So when you are doing these requirements, a side effect of this presentation is someone will go and say, here's a 20,000 page doc on the requirements of my feature. And what I've seen people do is they will do very low level requirements like, I want the color of the button to be blue, the color of this to be red. And you are just the product manager. You're not the designer. So do not say what the color should be. Leave it to the consistent design system so the design can own how your UX is consistent across the app, and keep it to the functional requirements of what users actually need, the consumer's problem. Does the consumer really care about the color of the button? Probably not, but design will care about, does this color of this button, is it clear that it's a delete button or just a different type of button? Is it clear that it's clickable? That's what designers will care about, right? Can they actually use the product? Is it feasible for them to use? So that's the requirement section. This is probably the most important section in the document because it is what you need to actually deliver the product and execute. Okay, into the competitor analysis. Here, this is very important, and this can be done in two different ways. The first way is you look at your competitors first, and then you ideate your product. Okay, this is basically the slogan of good artists copy, great artists steal, which is basically, hey, someone spent thousands of hours building the staircase. Would you like to go add the next step? All right, and that's great. That's awesome. People do that, love it, no problem. Personally, how I approach it is I like to think, how would I do my product spec first, and then I look at the competitor analysis last. And the reason why I invert this model is because I want to see what my brain can come up with, right? What's my innovative mindset? How am I thinking about this problem? And the reason why I love doing this, especially when you're younger or in your junior PM roles, it's probably the best to invert the model itself, is because it challenges you to see, okay, this is what I thought about. This is what the competitors have. What did I miss in my exploration? Oh, yeah, the competitor had that cool feature that auto-completed the text. I should have thought about that. Great. Let me bring that back. Let me bring that into my spec, right? So I can improve my spec. The spec is a living document. It evolves. As you learn, as you talk to customers, it will upgrade. Same with the competitors. As they upgrade their features, you should be upgrading yours. It's not stealing. It's just making the best solution for customers. And you might say, well, can't everyone just copy the same thing and we'll all have the same product? No, because there are millions of ways to evolve a product, and you will never have infinite amount of resources to do all the evolutions. So sometimes you'll have to make trade-offs. Sometimes you'll have to say, this decision we're going with, and we're not going with this decision, and this is what's going to happen from that course of action. Okay? And when you're looking at the competitor analysis, there are quite a few ways. A lot of people, they just look at the competitor's website. This is not the best way to find out what someone's doing. It's a great way. It's not the best. You can look at the change logs, right? What have they recently released? What's on their roadmap, if it's public? You can look at their social media. What have consumers thought about their recent launch? Did the consumers like that product? Did they hate that product because of a specific thing? At the end of the day, you're building for customers. So you should go as close to the customers as you can. If you don't have customers, because you're still in idea phase, go to their customers, because maybe their customers are also going to be your customers. Or maybe your customers are very similar to their type of customers. So what do they care about, and how can you listen to what they're saying? And that is really important. Listening is the key skill of any product manager. So you can see, hey, they launched the product already. We need to catch up. Maybe they support multiple providers and you missed that in your requirements because you were only thinking of one provider. Maybe they have a feature, but it's not relevant because they didn't actually do it in a similar fashion that you were thinking of, and has no applicability or relatability to what you were thinking. So in the competitor analysis, take screenshots. Don't make your engineers and designers have to go to the website to figure out what you were saying, because your interpretation of it may be unclear. A picture is worth 1,000 words. If you can take screenshots of how their experience looks so that your team doesn't have to do the work if they're questioning something, that will make your discussions and your meetings go much faster. If you are commonly in meetings where you're like, oh, I have no idea why this meeting took 2 hours, this is probably one of the great places to why, because someone is probably in the background, and I've seen this before, searching the competitors to figure out what you were referencing in your competitor analysis. Okay? Okay. So let's go to success metrics. I see some of the questions. I'm going to get to some of them at the end, but keep asking as we're on the slide, and if it's relevant to the slide, so I can try and pair it in with what I'm saying on the fly. The success metrics is one of the most important sections for product managers. It is not the most important sections for your execution team, but is the most important section for product managers. Because if you cannot measure something, and the reason why these are all black is because these are copy-pasted, these are very famous slogans, so you can differentiate them from my copy. If you can't measure something, you can't understand it. If you can't understand it, you can't control it. If you can't control it, you can't improve it. Translating that into English means If you cannot measure how your product is successful, you do not know if you are delivering value to your customers. If you do not know what is working and not working in your product, you do not know how to evolve your product and make it better than what the previous version was. So when you measure, a common mistake of measurement is, well, how do I measure? Can't I just go talk to the customer and ask them what they're saying? Can't I send them like a Google form or some sort of form or Typeflow form or something they can fill out to give me some responses? Think about where you're going to be doing product management in. Probably at a medium-sized, larger company, or a company that has been serving more than a few thousand users if they're paying your payroll. If they're a startup, maybe you can do that. But at the bigger scales of product management, you really want to get into a more quantitative approach versus just talking to them directly, because you may not have that opportunity. At Microsoft Teams, for example, there are 380 million customers. That's almost at 500 million at this point. I cannot go talk to 380 million people. I will be spending all day talking to people. I will not ship one feature. So what do? I need to create metrics that can track my product success at scale. Okay? That does not mean how much is Sam in marketing at CIBC Bank adding in terms of his goals. I cannot track individual people because, one, that's a security and privacy risk, right? So I don't have any personally identifiable information. So I just have these random user IDs that don't tell me anything. So I'm like, okay, what do I track then? How do I track this? I have to track, well, first, how many consumers are using the product? Are there 10,000 people using this feature? Is it growing by 50% every week? Is it super popular and viral that it starts to explode, right? That could be an indication of a successful product. But you can go deeper. So of those 50 people or 5,000 people or 10,000 people, however fast your product's growing, are they still using that feature after it's been launched, which is retention. And retention is something you should look up online because that could be a whole course in and of itself. How do you measure that? How do you know that people are using the product after they've tried it once? Okay. So if I'm using your budgeting app, I download it. Let's say I'm like Mint, I download your Mint app, but then 2 weeks later, I never open it again. Is that a successful product? No, because just because they've downloaded your app doesn't mean they're actually using your app, which means they'll be harder to monetize. So do you have very viral, sticky features that work at scale? And the way to think about this is, can you create a TikTok video that's so fascinating, that's so powerful, that people not only watch it once, but start recommending it to their friends, that start thinking about it, that even try to reproduce it? Is it sticky, right? Like Gangnam Style was very, very famous, very wide, but also super sticky. I mean, we've been hearing that song, I think 6 months after the release of it. So can you generate metrics that can track that scale and can track that retention to make sure consumers are obsessed with your app, obsessed with the feature, and really, really using it when they need to use it, okay? And so a great summary metric, a lot of people hear this all the time in the industry, is MAU, okay? MAU. What this stands for is monthly active users. It's basically how many users are using your feature. At a product manager, you're focused on that feature level. So for this feature, for this tracking my insights, seeing my spend summary, how many people are using that feature? I know we're a part of a bigger thing, which is this massive budgeting app, which has bank syncing, CSV exporting, importing, whatever. But how many people are using the insights feature? If the usage is low, why is it low? Didn't someone say in our user job study in our requirements earlier that insights was very important? How do we pull that out so that we are grabbing those insights and delivering what they need to see rather than just maybe a bunch of data that people can't parse or understand? When you're thinking of how to set a success metric for your product, think about the use case or the action that you're trying to achieve, okay? So think about, if I'm trying to get people to review their insights at the end of the month because I want them to be more conscious of where they spent, then I need to make sure people are opening that page. If they're not opening that page, or they've opened it a month ago but they never look at it again, chances are they thought that the page was useless. Maybe the layout of information was very heavy and they couldn't even extract the information they needed. Can I redesign that page using this data to see what do people care about? Maybe on the insights page, I see people click on what's my rent, how much I spend on rent or something, or takeout. Then I know that people care a lot about the takeout, how much they spent on takeout. Let me go deep into that. Can I break takeout down? As a product manager, can I be more advanced with that solution? Can I break takeout down to food versus drinks? And now we see when I give them that additional layer of granularity, they may have a drinking problem. Awesome. How do we solve that? Maybe that's in our scope, maybe that's not in our scope. But now at least you can measure it and know, are people spending more on food? Are people spending more on drinks? Where do you want to invest your resources next to move it forward? A great question here is about NPS, which stands for Net Promoter Score. Essentially what that means, and the measurements of it is widely varied, but people usually say 0 to 7 is failure, 7 to 8 or 9 is okay, and then 10 is like amazing, although everyone has their own scale, so it really doesn't matter. NPS is really not used that much in the larger ecosystem, although some companies still use it. It has a lot of flaws. At scale, it can give you lots of deviations or averages between what you're looking for. So sometimes, especially if there's a lot of loud voices, some weights can be distributed unequally. Like a 1 can impact it way more than a 7 or an 8 can, and so some voices get removed from it. So it's not the best measure. It should not be your default measure to use. As a product manager, you should really try to focus more on those internal metrics. And then your business team or your data analytics team can work with you to translate all the low-level feature metrics into a NPS-like score, although there are a little bit better ways to do NPS these days. That's just my guidance for the NPS part. Okay. Do we set acceptance criteria, or is that for the product owner? The product manager can set up acceptance criteria because the product manager is as close to the customer. Product manager, product owner, very similar roles. Okay, sometimes they overlap depending on what the company is. Either of you can set the acceptance criteria. Usually you'll have one, although unless you meant a project manager, in which case, yes, the product owner would set the acceptance criteria. So it depends what you mean by the acronyms. Just be careful with the PM acronym. I always just like to spell it out because it can mean many things. Program manager, product manager, or even product manager, program manager, or it could just be project manager. So either one of those three. Okay, let's keep going. We'll get to the questions at the end as well. So then we have the risks. So the risks, hopefully this image scares you here, generated with AI, is what is the risk of your feature? Okay, and this is very hard for people to create because everyone's like, my feature is amazing, there is no risks. I wouldn't have thought of a feature that has negative implications. And this is how we ended up with a lot of negative products in society today because we did not think about ethics as deeply as we could have. We did not think about how things could be interpreted. I'm going to ask a question to the group, and while I'm going through this presentation, I'd like to see some answers in the chat, which is, what are the risks do you think would be created from showing people how much they spent each month on their budget, or what their spending summary is for the last month? Everyone take a stab at it. Try it out in the chat. What do you think the risk might be? Okay, I'll get to the answer at the end of the slide. When you're doing your risks, you want to think about your cost of operations. Is doing this massive AI calculation to generate this data going to be expensive? If it's going to be expensive, money is not free, right? We need to tell our managers, our business analysts, our organization, our CEO, if we build this super advanced AI chat feature, every single time somebody asks a question, it's going to cost us $1. And we are expecting 10,000 people to ask questions every single day. So every single day, we're going to lose $10,000. I need to know that, right? As a CEO, as a business analyst, as just a person that's understanding the decisions we need to make in this company, as your senior product manager above you, or your managers of the department, they will need to know what are the risks with launching this feature. Okay? So that's the one part. What are the cost of goods increases? Very common risk to easily analyze. But the second one is latency concerns or performance concerns. If the product, every time I ask a question in ChatGPT, is going to take 5 minutes to respond, I need to know that. Because maybe we don't launch in that case. Maybe we do launch and we just modify the UI to let consumers know that the AI is thinking, right? How do we make sure that when we're evaluating these risks, that we are mitigating them and not just thinking about them, but that we're also seeing them, right? Because when you're writing your own spec and you're in your idea frame of like, oh, I have this amazing idea, gotta tell everyone I know that we need to show everyone their spending insight summary, how much they spent last month, you need to think on the other side, why is this a bad idea? Ask yourself, why is this a bad idea? Or talk to someone and tell me, what do you see like could be an issue with a problem, an idea like this, right? But try to do it on your own. Try to take a step back, take a deep breath, maybe leave your computer, come back the next day and come back with a frame of mind of why is this idea not going to work? Okay, it's very easy to think why an idea would work, but why is it not going to work? That is what the risk section is. risks, constraints, considerations, mitigations, whatever you want to call it. Think about it so that you can see what the problem is. I'm going to give you all a framework here that will help. There are 4 pillars you can use to evaluate risk. Value risk. Will the user use this feature? Is it for a very niche audience, right? Is it for an audience that is unlikely to use this? Is it too hard to find? Is there a usability risk? Will the user even figure out how to use it? Will they know what questions to ask ChatGPT? Or will it just confuse them that there's just a text box on the screen? Feasibility risks. Do we even have AI engineers on standby to build all these AI features? Or are we just pretending we will eventually get these resources in the future? Or do we need these resources? Should we put a request in, right? Do we even have the time? Are we so busy with our current projects we can't even have time to build this next project? So is it feasible? And lastly, the niche feature check, which is, and this one, a lot of people, the definition online is horribly incorrect for this. So just memorize what I'm saying here. It is not, a niche feature does not represent a small audience. Everyone now does the reaction emoji of, oh my God. What does a niche feature stand for? A niche feature stands for engages a small, high value target audience. Okay, what's the key word there? High value. If you're engaging a small audience, that is not necessarily a niche product. You want to engage a small, high value audience, that is a niche product. Okay, because what you can do from there is once you have, even if you just have 2 customers, but your 2 customers, maybe Mark Cuban, Kevin O'Leary, whatever, billion-dollar customers, right? Millions of dollars with revenue flow. And you're making, let's say you're charging them each $5 million, then boom, you have a $10 million business day one, right? But you only have 2 customers. But it's a niche, high-value audience. Now, if you have an idea that's like, oh, I want to sell a specific type of device, let's just call it like something that you use for exercise in a very specific position, for a very specific gender, for a very specific time of day that you have to use it. And that is only like 10 people in the world have this problem. And those 10 people have no money. Then what is the point of building that feature for a for-profit business? You should just start a nonprofit or just volunteer and do that on your own time. But if you're in a for-profit company, you need to make sure the audience that you're targeting, if they are small, okay, don't just say, oh, this is a niche. It's a small, high-value target audience. This is a pet peeve of mine because the internet just regurgitates the small audience vastly incorrectly. So let's go back to the question that I asked at the beginning of the slide, which is your spending insights. So the problem with the spending insights is it could be anxiety, right? Oh my God, I'm spending $10,000 on takeout a month. What is going on? I thought I was just spending $200, right? I don't like this app anymore. It's telling me to reduce my spending maybe, right? I don't want to know that information. I might get overwhelmed with how much I'm spending, right? Whoa, I did not expect it to be that high. It may be stressing me out. The way the information is presented is just like numbers. You spent this, you spent that, you spent this. And it's like, whoa, that's like a lot. Can I get that information maybe like one at a time? Can I see how much income I earned relative to it, right? When I see this risk of, oh, we might cause the user anxiety, how can we resolve that? Can we show them their income next to it? Like, oh yeah, you spent $10,000 on takeout, but that's only 1% of your income. Oh, okay, that's not a problem, right? Great. So how can we mitigate the risk? How can we address these risks in advance, okay, so that we can make the right choices coming out of it? One person said cutting expenses. Okay, well, that could have a broader GDP implication. If my budgeting app is so powerful that people just stop spending, because the entire thesis of our budgeting app is we want people to stop spending, period, not spend intentionally, then if everybody just stops spending on the economy crashes. We artificially created a recession, right? So that could be a potential use case. So what's our goal with the spending insights? Is it to just show people how much they've spent to make them stop spending? Is it to make them more intentional with where their money is going? And have we really developed a product that actually does that? Or are we just throwing things on a graph and just saying, here's how much you spent, the end, right? A product manager goes deeper to understand the end-to-end flow. Okay, let's go back to the next section. Thank you everyone for participating. So the next steps, after you've done all these sections, you have officially written your first spec, okay? That includes your relevant information, the elevator pitch, the why, the personas and the user jobs, the interaction lifecycle requirements, right? So how does your feature work end to end, the full experience, not just one piece of it. the business impact, the competitor analysis, the success metrics, and the risk constraints and considerations that we just talked about. That is what a spec is. That is how you take an idea that someone has and you flesh it out with true depth and true insights into the user that you're trying to solve to perfect a solution. And the key thing about all of this is develop it with your customer in mind. Heck, even develop it with your customer beside you. Ask them questions, take notes, take some time. You cannot solve it in an hour. These types of in-depth solution innovative thinking require some focus time. Same way you need focus time to potentially code, because you can't code with distractions. You need focus time to have deep thought to truly understand the problem. But at the end of the day, go back to the customer, ask them how they feel about your solution. Don't wait until you've designed it or finished the engineering of it to test it with a prototype. Just ask them. Consumers are quite smart. Even at Microsoft, we talk to millions of consumers. Sometimes we're like, well, they even understand what we're saying here. And that's on us to communicate clearly and effectively our idea, both in the verbal and written format, so they can get quick feedback as fast as possible. It's all about iteration speed. The best companies can iterate the fastest and learn from their customers. Okay, so in terms of any templates available for the spec sheet samples, I'm sure the course on Circuit Stream will also have some templates. There are some templates online. I'll share this deck out as well, so you can use it to formulate your own template on how you'd like to develop your own product. Personally, I like when the organization comes in with a template, so that when you are working at a company, they have thought of all these potential edge cases for you. I hate it, especially as a product manager, when I join a company and they say write a spec and they give me a blank document. And I'm like, oh, so you clearly don't have a good process here, because a lot of the questions that you should be asking, right? If our product has a graph or visual component, do I need to be aware of that? Do I need to connect it in? So a template can really speed up product development. Most mature organizations have one. They're usually not that great. That's okay. That's where you all come in with your newfound knowledge to help them improve their templates if they have one, or if they don't have one, you create one for them. So you're helping all the PMs in the organization be more efficient with their time. So in terms of next steps, a few things you can do to just practice product management on the side. The first is there's a great newsletter, Lenny's newsletter, very famous across all senior staff, junior PMs. Every PM is basically subscribed to this newsletter at this point. It is the central source of PM guidance, because this person just interviews PMs at different companies all day, which is amazing. So you get practical advice on how to do PM execution, growth, leadership, spec writing, strategic vision, stakeholder alignment. Everything is covered in the newsletter. There's a lot of information. It's really, really good. You get it on a weekly basis. I'm not promoting the newsletter as an affiliate. I just think it's a great resource. There are some great books as well that you can read. There are two in particular that I kind of really like. I think the first one is the Lean Product Playbook, which I am not the biggest fan of. I've read it. I thought it was good. I think it's hard to make some of the insights actionable from it, but the key thesis of just being able to iterate fast, I think, is great to just pull out of that. But the one I really liked that had some good actionable insights was Hooked, which is really like, how do you make a product habit forming? And not in a negative way, right? Don't use these dark patterns to get people addicted to social media or anything like that, but really make it better for them, like hooked on to their financial outlook, right? Help them review their finances every 6 months. Create that habit. That's a healthy habit. Think about when you're learning this information that you're very lucky to have access to, right? Have an internet to be able to pull the information, to be using it for some good product building rather than for some negative intent, just to make money or scale it as much as possible. The recording will be shared after the event as well. And then lastly, a great podcast, one of my favorite podcasts, because it doesn't even feel like a podcast, is just How I Built This. It's by NPR. It's a fantastic podcast. The production quality is insane. I like to think of it as, if you like meditation or have ever done yoga or anything like that, then this is like yoga for your entrepreneurial mind. It is beautiful. The stories are raw. They're real. It's not just some sugar-coated event of, oh, I worked really hard, that's how I was successful. They actually go through their stories of the challenges they face, and it's very insightful and very enlightening. I'd highly recommend it. Every single famous entrepreneur you can think of is almost on this podcast, so it's really, really great to check out. Now, if you want some relevant next steps for, okay, what about right now? What can I do right now to try something out to get a little bit better at product, just even like 2%, go check out some existing products. So check out the Savvy Finance product that I mentioned. I was doing this Chief Product Officer of Savvy Finance in the nighttime. Check this out right now. See, does this product work for you? Does it not work for you? Why does it not work for you? think about it critically. I am a person that likes constructive criticism more than I like positive feedback. So instead of telling me what you like about the app, if you do want to connect on LinkedIn, feel free to include a note of just why you're connecting and what you thought about the app as well, so I can see that where we met basically. But tell me, like, what do you not like about the application? Why is the application you think it's actually developed incorrectly, right? I want to be challenged. I love being challenged. I want criticism. And I want you to think about these product management principles we just tried in a real context. If you need an application, you can try it on a product you're currently working on. You can try it on the Savvy Finance app. You can try it in your job today. Or you can just try it on your just friend's idea. If they came to you recently and they were like, I have this great idea, help them out, right? Write a spec for them. Tell them, oh, this is how I interpret your idea. Does this make sense, yes or no? And that could be your next step for getting your product thinking brain just moving forward and applying it in the real world. Lastly, as I said, just to conclude the whole thing, if you want to become a great product manager, just start when you're thinking of ideas, because all of you are great idea generators. Think about one more thing. How would you measure the success of your idea? Okay? And if you like doing that, if you enjoy doing that as you're creating ideas, then you're probably a great product manager naturally at heart, and you should just try applying for the roles and seeing what happens. I've seen people who were in biology apply for product management and get in. I've seen people who were in different fields that were nothing to do with technology get into product management as well. So it doesn't matter if you have a background in it or not. It just matters if you have the ability to think in this kind of way, to innovate, to really have this vision of an industry or a problem and work with consumers and be a clear communicator to get there. Okay, if you have a tech background, you probably have a little bit of an edge because you can talk to engineering more effectively. You understand the cost of goods potentially a little bit more, or what the risk could potentially be with some technological products, but it's not a prerequisite for the course at all. You honestly, if you just have an interest in product management, you're able to transition into this industry. Okay, so now I'll answer some questions from the chat if we still have time. And no one is stopping me right now, so I assume we do, which is great. What roles do you suggest a new grad to start product management with? What roles do you suggest? Well, you can do APM roles are actually one of the best. So if you're still in university, then you can do kind of these like internships, which are like even more junior than a junior product management role, which are amazing. If you are a new grad, you can do, there's obviously new grad product management roles that are targeted for new grads, but you can also do junior product management roles as well. You don't have to limit yourselves to one, especially if you've been away from universities for a year, then it's a great time to just go right for the junior level, because at that point you would have amassed some sort of experience from some or even some side projects that will translate into the junior product management role. In terms of some AI tooling, I love using Anthropic, like the Claude AI for development related tasks, generating some specifications, doing some math, doing some complex processes. I love using AI on ChatGPT for just like general idea generation or competitor analysis, or even trying to help me find something. I use it fluctuatingly though. Like sometimes I'll use it 20% of the time, sometimes I won't use it at all. It is a great tool. It is evolving. I'm sure in 6 months people will start using it 50% of the time. So just try to figure out, is it working for your use case? And if it is, just try applying it. And there are many use cases it's applicable to, even for like the opportunity section, what's happening, trends in the market. But you can play around with AI and figure out, does it work for you? The one thing I give when I do talks on AI though is just make sure you understand what the AI is outputting. If you don't know what the AI is outputting, you don't understand what it's saying, you should not be using AI, okay? But if you understand what it's saying and you're just using it to write something out that you didn't want to spend too much time on, that's the perfect time for using AI. Okay, I'll hand it over to Tyler.
Perfect. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, loud and clear.
Awesome. My mic was still having some issues when I was off stage there, so I was hoping it was still it's going to work okay when I came back up. So first of all, Ralph, amazing presentation. Thank you so much for sharing everything that you just did. The chat is obviously very engaged. Lots of amazing insights and just information that I could never share myself. So thank you so much for coming out today and presenting that. We are going to do some audience Q&A here together, guys, but I'm just going to quickly share some information with you about how to reach out to us here at Circuit Stream, about our upcoming courses. And then we're going to loop back in and just finish off the Q&A. So if there's any questions here in the chat, we can try and go back and go through the chat itself and make sure we don't miss anything. But what would work better, guys, is if you start putting your questions, if you copy and paste them over to the questions tab, we can go through them one by one and I can mark them as answered. So just to make sure we don't miss anything there. So we'll try and tackle both. But if you guys could use the questions tab for the Q&A, that would be the best there. So Ralph, I'm just going to close off your presentation screen here for just a moment. I'm going to reshare mine. There we go. And yeah, so I'm just going to share, like I said, some information with you guys really quickly about the upcoming cohorts that we have for the boot camps, contact information for us here. Oh, and I guess most importantly, we do have our annual fall sale on the go right now. So really, really good opportunity for the courses. It's basically, we call it the annual fall sale. It's otherwise known as Black Friday in a lot of different areas, but the annual fall sale, the regular cost for our bootcamp is $10,500. And then if anybody was interested in registering for the upcoming boot camps, just note that the annual fall sale gives you 15% off and then also gives you a gift card to upgrade your tech. So the gift card itself can be up to $1,500. It varies between the lowest I think you'll get is $500 and the highest is $1,500. It's an Amazon gift card and it's utilized so that you can, whatever you need. If you need to upgrade a keyboard or a monitor or a mouse or, whatever the case may be, it's kind of meant to support you in that. So just a little bit about our promotion. That one is available until November 29th, until the end of this week. And then in terms of the actual start date, the next cohort we have running is from February 11th to July 10th. This promotion would be available to that. If for any reason that cohort is full, we can probably still apply the promotion for a later cohort and just kind of put you in for it. In full transparency, I'm not sure how many seats we have left in here. I know that these courses fill up pretty quickly. So if you guys have any questions about it, if you're looking to potentially take it with us, just let us know as soon as you can. And if you want that promotion, obviously by the end of this week. This is the contact information for us here. You can reach out to us directly at CircuitStream, or you can reach out through one of our university partners, U of T or McGill. That's the phone number and the email information for you there. And again, this whole session will be recorded, guys. So if I move the screen away too quickly, you'll be able to kind of go back and find it. Worst case scenario, you can always just email me at tyler@circuitstream.com. I guess on that note, if there's anybody who has any very specific questions about the courses or wants to be connected through to the admissions team, feel free to shoot me a note directly at tyler@circuitstream.com and I can just do a warm introduction directly for you there. So that's it. I just wanted to share quick info about the courses and kind of what we have coming up here. I'll close this screen off now and we can pop back up here, Ralph, and we'll try to go. I see one question in there. Is it 100% online? Yes, the courses are 100% online. They are live taught. There's live components and also self-paced components of it, but it is 100% online. Okay. Oh, and sorry guys, one last thing before we jump into the Q&A. I dropped a poll in the poll there, just kind of asking you to give us a little feedback on the session today and how you thought we did. Hopefully we did all right. It was mostly you so far here, Ralph. So cool. And then so we can go through the questions. I'm going to flip over to the questions tab now, and we can just start right at the bottom here. Ralph has answered a few of these already, which is perfect. Maybe what I'll do really quickly, there's a question that says, can knowing SQL, Figma, and APIs be considered equivalent to knowing Office programs? They're quite different from these tools, but the SQL, Figma APIs are helpful for product management. So that's just, I'm just kind of mentioning what Ralph had said there. So if anyone else had a similar question, what are your tips for interviewing, applying for PM roles? Translate your ability from your current role into the product role and practice on the side. Start reviewing products, start thinking how I can translate my communication skills into the product space. So that makes sense. The next question there was, what would you suggest an undergrad do to further start their product management career? Start measuring products, find a product mentor, engage in product space, CircuitStream in brackets. Thank you for the shout out, Ralph. Or listen to how others have built their products to develop the mindset. All amazing advice there. So Okay, and the next one here is, what are some pieces of advice you would give to an undergrad student who doesn't come from a technical background but is super interested in PM roles?
Yeah, this is a great question. I mean, if you don't have a technical background, that is not an issue. You do not need to be an engineer or even know how to build products end to end, even if you're working in the tech industry. Everyone right now is pausing because Elon Musk has said you do. It would be beneficial to have a tech background so you can communicate with the engineers, but you do not need to know how to build a RAG pipeline or set up a database or set up an SQL server, all that sort of stuff. It is always helpful to know how to do that so you've experienced it, but it is not required. So what is helpful though, what's a good tip if you are starting from no technical experience? Well, start learning the basics, right? Just the high level basics of like, what is an API? How does a mobile app talk to a server, right? Is it send a network request? Like what's going on? You just need to know the basics of like, oh, a mobile app sends a network request to the server, server sends a network request back to the mobile app to give it back the information that it needs. You don't have to know that it's like Axios or any sort of like web framework. You just need to know the high level basics so you can tell people, hey, this is what's happening or this is what I want to do. In fact, fun fact here, this is a very controversial statement, but it's true, is sometimes the best product manager, okay, product manager, notice I'm never saying program manager or project manager, the best product manager is the one that's farthest away from the implementation. Why? How is that possible? How can you not know how to build software but deliver the best products possible? And this is very common because psychologists are amazing entrepreneurs. And this has always surprised me because I was always like, well, these psychologists have no technical experience. How is that possible? I come from a technical background. The reason why is because they don't have that bias of inaction, right? They're not, oh, this will be too hard, or I'll just write this off immediately. I won't even talk to my engineers because I know what to do, right? They don't have that ego. But also, if they're not close to the engineering, they're close to the customers. And the most important place to be as a product manager is close to your customers, because your customers are who you're delivering the product to. You're not building it for yourself because you want to be the next Steve Jobs and just build stuff. You're not building it for your engineering team so they can feel accomplished that they've built some cool stuff. We're building it for customers at the end of the day. So talking to customers, aligning with customers, verifying your ideas with customers, even if it's scary, is what you need to do to make sure you don't waste 6 months building the wrong product. So my advice for that is learn the technical basics, right? Just learn how do mobile apps work today. You can even watch the news. Sometimes they cover the basics of it as well. And that is more than enough to be good enough to work as a product manager. Even if you don't know it, but actually be an asset to learn how to empathize with the customer in a closer way. Great question. And if your question is not answered clearly enough, just ask it again or ask the follow-up, and I'm happy to continue going.
Amazing. Thank you, Ralph. Okay, I'll throw the next one up here. What are the differences between PM and TPM at Microsoft that you've seen? Are TPMs very technical and involved with the development process, aka coding?
Great question. So the technical product managers are more focused on those technical dependencies. So in this role, you should know how the technology stack actually works, because you will need to be holding people accountable to delivering solutions in a specific sequence. So what that means is you cannot build the front end of your mobile app if you don't have the back end up and running, unless you're using some sort of mock API tool. But most engineers aren't familiar too much with those. So really there needs to be a sequence of delivery. The servers must be up and running so that we can do our testing in the next phase, and aligning all those portions together so that the segments are clearly on track to complete and not one get blocked by the other. That's kind of the TPM positioning. From the PM role, we're more focused on, okay, we know we need all these components built, but which stakeholders do we need to engage in? Okay, we need to talk to, get the backend team engage in the product to review the spec. We need to get the front end team to review the spec. And then from there, the TPM can just hand off and do the project delivery, which is kind of like project management, but more technical at that point. So it is very different at every company how product management is done. Some companies, it's more on that innovation side. Sometimes it's more, even their product management roles incorrectly are more project-based, which is technically incorrect, but not everyone knows. This is a new industry. Like the product manager role is very young. It's not as mature as like product managers who've been here for a long time. So there is that kind of delay in getting the standards right across all the companies as well. And so, Tyler, you're muted, just by the way, but I see the question.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
Thanks for the presentation. Without much prior PM experience, what ideas, points can I highlight on my resume from past co-ops to make it stand out to recruiters when I apply for PM roles in the future?
Yeah, so here, translating things like working with stakeholders, working with multiple people in an organization, bridging across teams to deliver solutions, whether it's a biomedical device, whether it's an essay that you worked with thousands of researchers across the world on, whether it's a research paper, anything that shows that you can align, communicate clearly with a bunch of stakeholders, because it's complicated to build products these days, is going to be critical in your product manager role. So translating your ability into the product management space from your previous role is going to be super effective.
Amazing. And I could plug the boot camp too. I guess you get some projects if you go through the boot camp that you could present there too. Okay, next one. Can you explain the difference between product ops manager versus product manager versus product marketing manager? I work on the sales side at Uber and never really understood the difference.
Great question. Great question. Let me start with the product manager and product marketing manager one, because that one, everybody always asks that question. The product manager is, what do we want to build? You want to build an app that allows consumers to track their insights, okay? And what we're building is like we're showing every single category of how much they spent. That's product manager. Product marketing manager is, I'm not going to go and post all that on a blog or social media. I'm going to think, okay, why did Ralph build this? Why does he want to build these line items of categories and stuff like that? Okay, I got it. We're going to call this end of month insights. And so we're going to post it on LinkedIn. It's going to be called end of month insights, just released. Finally, consumers have a way to figure out where they've spent, right? Notice they're not using the language, oh, break the expense down by category, which I was using as a builder, right? Internally, they're looking at more, how does the product externally interface with customers? How is it presented? So product manager is more internal. How are we going to get this done? Product marketing is, okay, how are we going to market this to consumers? Right? That's very different from sales, where it's more B2B, where you might be selling to businesses directly. Consumer sales take a much more social approach to it. For product ops manager, that could be more considered, and it depends on the company as well, because some companies, they call it product and they do product marketing. So every company is different, just as a caveat. Product ops will be closer to like a project manager role of like, okay, how are the operations of the product sequencing going in the organization? Like, I've given this requirement as a sales rep to our our product manager. What's the timeline for getting that accomplished? Like, are we on track for that? Are we not on track for that? Is the organization, is my feedback not even going through? How are the operations of our internal organization working for like just the organization in terms of a role, like the whole process of building and shipping? Does that help?
Oh, I'm sure it does. That was a perfect explanation. Thank you. All right. How can I break into product management without product management experience? What should I highlight on my resume?
Great question. So here you can highlight previous things you've done that are building things that are highly detailed. So anything that like goes deep into a domain. This applies to anything, right? Writing an English essay, writing a research paper, writing even orchestrating complex sales documents for deals, anything that kind of highlights that kind of thinking in depth and not just like rapid fire execution. Execution is super important, but you do want to have that innovative mindset to do the product building stuff. So for the breaking into product management without the experience, one thing you can do is you can get experience, right? You can always get highly controversial, but there are paid experiences, there are apprenticeship experiences, there are unpaid experiences, there are volunteer experiences you can do on the side while you're doing your job to kind of just learn, right? Hopefully with a mentor that's teaching you, so you're getting some value out of it. Or you can practice on your own just day by day as you're on the subway, as you're driving along the roads or highways that you're checking. Hey, I had this idea yesterday. How do I measure that? Just as you're driving, like how would I measure that sort of thing? So getting some practice is going to be really helpful. I think the most helpful thing though, something that's unorthodox that you can do, a kind of unorthodox tip here, is start writing on a blog or on your personal social media. Here is a problem I found in society, or a problem that this person told me about. Here is my in-depth solution to how I would solve that problem. Like, why are eggs so expensive? Okay, here's the industry, right? So that's a business analyst brain coming in. Here's the industry. There's this egg grading facility, all that sort of stuff. Well, as a product manager, or if I'm just thinking about the problem to solve it, why are we doing this thing, right? Whatever your idea is. And just start posting that It will get you into that product management mindset, that problem-solving mindset, and will show recruiters and other people that you love building, right? You love innovating problems, you love solving them. You actually like the inner weeds and the grains of how things are built rather than just maybe the marketing front. And then in that case, you might be a product marketing manager or just a marketing manager, right?
Amazing. All right, let me jump into the next one. Oh, we've got a bunch more. We got lots of questions here. We'll try and get through these as quickly as we can for you guys. Sorry, I didn't realize we had so many popping up here, which is great. Don't stop the questions. That's good.
Okay, I'll go a little bit faster with the answers then. I'll do some.
Yeah, we'll try and get through them.
Yeah. So, what are some key skills to transition from project management to product management? Great question. The first one is understanding how products are built. So if you already know how the delivery works, figure out how are things built and how do I build things? Because that's very different from just coordinating things and getting them done. Let's go to the next question. People can ask a follow-up question if they want to go more detailed. I want to get through as many as possible. What percentage of your job involves creativity and brainstorming and thinking? As a product manager, probably the highest percentage, almost like 80, 70% of it is just creativity, just thinking, just brainstorming. If you love solving problems, if you love a new challenge every single day, if you love a non-linear like structure to your work, because like there's just problems of like super ambiguity that you have. Like someone will say, my problem is I'm spending too much on finances. How are you going to get that to a budgeting app? That can be difficult, right? I mean, that's just an easy one, but that sort of connection path will be fun for people if you like that.
Totally. All right. Do I need a portfolio to apply for PM jobs? How do I show knowledge of PM skills if I'm an engineer?
Great question. If you've built products, that is your portfolio. As an engineer, as an individual contributor, you are able to deliver something, okay? At the point of transitioning from a designer or engineer to product, you need to now know what to build, okay? So show how you made decisions on I built this versus I built that. Because you could have coded anything, but you chose to code something specific, so why? So give the why in your answers in an interview of why you chose to build this application or personal website in this format or this type of design, okay?
Yeah, that's perfect to show you have an understanding of it for sure. Okay, work for a nonprofit where I have transitioned into product management role that is impossible to extricate from the program management role. I also currently hold. What tips do you have for me to help optimize both functions? So product management.
I see. You're doing both product and program because maybe there's lack of resources and you're now just doing everything.
That one's tough because we don't know what the program management role really entails too, but.
Yes, yeah, there's some details missing, but more generally, I would say if you can delegate to additional resources on the team, like maybe ask your designers and engineers to co-work with you or ask your engineers to start delivering weekly reports for you so that you can just have the insights coming to you rather than you always requesting. That could reserve and bring some capacity back for you to focus on the product portion of it. Great question.
Excuse me. What is it like working on as a product manager at Microsoft, considering they are already very well established, just in terms of the company? More curious, what types of products you work on.
So I work on Microsoft Teams. Apologies if I didn't say that already, but basically I've worked on everything. So growth, so meeting notes, which is the ability to add a meeting notes from your calendar, so on the calendar event, and have that instantly open with the agenda in a meeting so that when you join a meeting, everyone's aligned and knows what to talk about. Probably one of the most impactful features I've built there that drives productivity. There's been some monetization. So how do we get Teams Premium more sales into the advanced intelligence space, right? So summarizing your meeting notes or just creating templates for calendar events so you don't have to keep recreating the same stakeholders for every single meeting. And then lastly, just the actual meeting window, which is similar to what you're seeing here. These two boxes on the screen, how are they laid out? How are the controls laid out? How to make that as efficient as possible. So, when you're in a call with your grandfather or any sort of older audiences, they're able to find that share button. Even younger audiences, quite frankly, seeing how do I share my screen? Common question still in 2024 that's being asked. Even though it's right there, it's still too hard to find. So that's something that we would optimize. Great question.
Yeah, I love that. Okay. How do I find a product mentor? Meetups, LinkedIn, cold messaging? Probably yes.
Yes to everything. This is, yes, just when you introduce in the LinkedIn, don't just hit connect. Hit connect with a note and say, I would like to be mentored in product management. Here's why, here's what I've done so far. Like give some sort of like motivation that you've put in a little bit of work yourself. So it's not all on the other person. And provide some value. Just say like, hey, I've reviewed your app, or I've reviewed this thing that you're working on. Here's some of my feedback. I'd love to learn more from you, right? Or just discuss, yeah. Provide value first and you won't get value all the time in return.
Absolutely. Oh, and Daniela, we offer mentorship in the boot camp and AMA sessions with industry professionals. So just throw that out there. All right. How do you create a persona? If a qualitative questionnaire is used, how many participants are needed to develop a reliable persona? This is a great question, actually. Additionally, if we have access to usage data for all users, what percentage of users should represent one persona after filtering? Raven, that's an amazing question.
Great question. So there's 3 questions in this. I'll go step by step. The first one is, how do you create a persona? Controversial, because personas, sometimes people don't like them. Sometimes people like them. I think the reason why people don't like them is because they've done incorrectly so many times that they've burnt the tool itself. The persona needs to be hyper specific and it needs to be a realistic. Like if you're telling me I'm targeting students that eat 2 times a month on takeout, and there's no relevancy to your product or your feature, then it is useless information. It's clutter, right? If you tell me, I will ask you, why was it important that they eat out 2 times a month? Like, why is that the persona we're talking about? If they eat 1 time a month, what's the difference? And you may say, oh, because when they eat 2 times a month, they get this special offer. So they're doing this like certain user path flow that I'm specifically targeting because I'm targeting consumers that only eat out because of bonus offers or something, right? So what is the reasoning of every single data point you include in the persona? If you put, oh, I'm targeting, like, this is Sammy. Sammy is 35 years old. I might be like, why does it matter that she's 35 years old? What's the importance of that? Is it because like 35-year-olds have a certain medical condition? What is the connection to the feature? A lot of the times you'll see personas that go on and on and on, and they're building something that has nothing to do with any of the heuristics or characteristics you've defined. So really make sure it connects. If you're using a qualitative questionnaire, you don't need, well, how many participants do you need to give a reliable persona? It depends obviously on what you're doing, right? Are you targeting a niche audience, a large audience? I would say the more important part is, do you feel confident that you've identified a human problem? Okay, that preferably you have validated in the industry is large enough, and large enough for each person can be different. Like some people might say, oh, 10 people is large enough for me. Some people would say, oh, I'm not doing anything unless 100,000 people have said yes, right? But the thing is, with product management, you don't always have all the data. So dealing with ambiguity, figuring out how to extrapolate things or figuring out how to make a gut decision is going to be as equally important as the critical tools that you have on your hand. So if you have access to the usage data of all users, same thing. What is your goal? Is it to target every user in the app? Obviously, you want features that have mass appeal, because those are the most valuable things, right? If I can give more people a solution to more of their problems, that's going to be more impactful than giving a solution to 5 people of their problems, okay? But that's obviously harder, so maybe you choose to just give 5 people because that's an easier market to enter. It depends on your strategy.
Amazing. That was a great question. Another one from Raven. Shall we delve deeper into analyzing competitors' financial reports to gain insights into their roadmaps, or is it something typically handled by more senior product managers?
Great question. Do not worry too much about the titles. I feel like in product management, people are like, oh, my manager should be doing that, or I should be doing this, or someone should be doing this. Just do it yourself if you have the idea, because people are too busy to do everything. And as you know, in a job, anyone who was at a job before, you cannot do everything that's asked of you. It's just too much to do. So you need to pick what is going to give the highest ROI. If you believe and you are able to drive unique insights from a competitor's financial reports because you can see things with finance because you're more number oriented than other people, phenomenal. Leverage your skill set. The beauty of product management is that there's no one way to succeed. It's not like, oh, the most technical person wins. It's the person with the best way to solve the consumer's problem that wins. Okay? And I would just caution with this statement. I know you're not doing this, but just as a caution, customer is the most important thing, not what your competitors are doing and not what they're building. They could be building things that their customers don't even like, right? Many competitors do that, right? Microsoft has built many products that customers hate. Does that mean that Microsoft, just because it's so well established and famous, is right? No, it just means that they have lost sight of the customer and got too excited about building a lot of fun stuff. Great question.
Totally. All right. Are programming skills mandatory? If not,
programming skills are not mandatory. If you know about infrastructure,
what
APIs,
IT knowledge?
endpoints, that's helpful, but they're not. It's not mandatory. You can just learn the basics, like how does something talk to something else, and that will be suffice. You don't need to know how to code things. Your engineers will be able to do that for you. If they cannot, then you have a problem. Now, the one thing that they can push back on, though, is what is the requirement, right? So if you tell me I want to keep track of the user's available savings, the engineer has fair play to ask you, what does available savings mean? Is that the total assets minus expenses or liabilities? Is it the total assets plus the projected income? Like, what can you be more clear with what you mean by available savings? So you might need to write a little bit of, like, not math, but just like a definition of that word, so they can go and do the math for you, or derive the algorithm for you. Great question.
That makes sense. Okay. I've got 5+ years of product development experience in consumer electrical products, manufacturing industry. How can I leverage this to transition into product management roles?
Yeah, so if you've built stuff, which it seems like you have as a product development in these consumer electronics, that is product management. Whether it's software, hardware, doesn't matter. Product management can be in any sort of field. It can even be in biology, right? How can we get the right protein characteristics? What are the effects of this medicine, right? How can we get the right side effects? Because we know, maybe it's like we know that people, if the medication has a headache effect, they won't use it. So can we substitute the protein to give them a different type of effect and still solve the problem? So it's about that deep thought. If you have 5 years of deep thought in consumer electronics, that's translatable to software or anywhere else. Obviously, just different technologies in the back end. But as long as you know how to do it from your consumer electronics, it's the same thing at the next place. So just use the same things that you have and just showcase what you've done at that initial place.
Amazing. All right. What's a mini day in the life of as a product manager for you at Microsoft?
Love it. One thing I forgot to mention in the presentation: product manager has a lot of meetings. So if you do not like sitting in meetings and you're a person that likes to just do their work on their own time, in their own nice, comfortable little bubble, which, by the way, as an engineer, I love to do. I actually hate meetings as a product manager. It's kind of my antithesis, but but there's a lot of meetings in product management. There are so many stakeholders to align. You have to talk to so many different departments: marketing, sales, business, engineering, design. Like, you're doing everything and everything. You're like a CEO of a little feature. Okay, so you don't get that broad industry outlook, but you get that little scope, and can you perfect the depth of that to infinity? In terms of what a mini day looks like, you'll wake up, you'll see a bunch of messages from 30 different stakeholders asking you for answers to questions, because you're the owner of the requirements. You'll answer them. You'll maybe have a few meetings with engineering, see what the status of your projects are. If you're in that program management role, you may have some meetings with data science to figure out what new calculations you want to do. And you'll probably be spending the majority of your day writing the spec as well, like gathering the requirements, talking to stakeholders, and just making sure things are running smoothly. And you may have a customer meeting here and there. It's always good to have in your daily time to just stay close to the customer and ask them what they're thinking. But on average, you'll mostly be working on that document and getting that writing and clarity as clear as you can get it.
And in meetings.
Yeah.
Okay, I do understand that product marketing manager are lean towards the business side, whereas product managers are ever so slightly more technical. Will you be able to further elaborate on the difference?
Yeah, let's give some more examples. So basically, let's say you're a product marketing. Actually, let me just do a mini day for both. If you're a product marketing manager, your mini day is basically like, okay, I have to deliver these products. I'm on these customer forums. I'm seeing what people are saying about these projects we've just launched. I'm working on the marketing roadmap. So when are certain things delivering? Am I telling customers that, yes, this budgeting feature is coming in 2024 December? Is that the right date? Let me just check with my product manager and make sure everything is good. Let me figure out the framing of this feature. How are we launching it? What's the consumer sentiment? What are the trends? Can I do a Brat summer budget or something like that's in tune with the audience that I'm targeting? So how do I make it relevant? How do I make it fun? For product managers, it is more technical right? So you're more on that, okay, I got this customer feedback, it just came in. How am I going to get a product out of this? There's a problem, how do I solve it, right? That's very strange. Whereas for product marketing, it's a little bit easier because there's a product already built and defined and all that stuff. How do I market it? Okay, so two different sides of the coin, basically.
Amazing. The Brat Summer got me. Waiting for a very demure, very mindful shout out next. All right. Difference between BM, PM, and product marketing manager.
So business manager, I assume that's what you're referring to. If not, just post in the chat. But business manager is more going to be about just how the overall business is running. And so maybe how your industry is moving or what the trends of the industry are. So there may not be problems, it may just be trends, right? Like I said earlier, the Canadian inflation might be 5,000%. That's a trend, but where's the problem, right? The problem is that consumers need to manage their finances. Maybe the problem is businesses are struggling to afford their rent. Like maybe you're building a rent solution. What is that? PM, as we said, and PMM we just said, so I'll skip those two, but ask again if, brand manager. Brand manager is very different. Sorry. See, this is why we can't use acronyms. Brand manager is more around that management of the overall organization's brand. So if, for example, Savvy Finance was building the Spending Insights product and the product marketing marketer was like, here is a new way to see your end of month insights, then a brand manager is going to be like, what's our like design system, or what's our copy system, or how are we active on social media? Like when we launch things, do we like wait 12 hours and then post on X and then post on Reddit? Do we like just post on Facebook only? Like what's our strategy? Do we just email customers? Do we just send them print materials? What are you doing at the overall level? Because these two roles, PM and PMM, are more on like an individual feature basis. So they're not as holistic in their overlook.
Awesome. Okay, still got a few more here. What is the role of the product manager after release of the product? That's a great question too.
That's an amazing, I'm going to upvote that myself because I love that question. When you release a product, the job is not over, contrary to popular belief. When you launch the product, the job has just started because this is now your first attempt at solving a customer's problem. You do not know if you've succeeded or failed. You may launch it and it may fail. So you have to look at the analytics that you've instrumented before you launched, hopefully, or instrument them very fast. If you just launched, usually you do it before you launch, but if you didn't, do it after, and see what the data is telling you. Are people using it the way you intended? Are there issues with it? Is there potential opportunities to evolve the product? What can you do to really get the product to where it needs to be so that it is successful and can evolve in the right way for version 2, right? Or version 3, or the next product you want to build? Great question.
Yeah, that's a great question. Lots of great questions here, guys. How to find volunteer opportunities to gain experience?
So volunteer opportunities are everywhere. And this is a luxury and a privilege that some people can afford to do and some people can't, because obviously a volunteer sometimes is unpaid. So you need to have a good financial backing to be able to do it, okay? Or you just reduce your lifestyle costs, one of the two. So if you want to find volunteer opportunities, you have multiple options. Incubators of startups. Startups are always looking for help. Maybe they don't have mentors on standby, but they're always looking for help. You can just get some practice. You can just have a problem to work on. Like they can give you a problem and that could be the missing piece because maybe you struggle with thinking of the problem. Maybe you need a mentor. So in that case, look on LinkedIn, start telling people what I told earlier. If you're looking for other volunteer opportunities in the workplace, like start asking what problems are there? What problems is the business facing? Businesses are always facing problems. There's so many problems in the world. The funniest thing I hear is that AI will solve all our problems. AI will only solve like 20% of our problems and will create like probably 30 new ones. So what is the problems that you are trying to solve? Find problems, find solutions for them. That's your best way to gain experience. So just look out for them, try to find out how to measure them, and keep your eye open for them, and you'll be good to go with that.
Amazing. Okay. How's work-life balance since you own your own solution?
Great question. You need to protect your time. Everyone will want your time. You are the smartest person because you own the requirements. You own the source of truth of what exactly needs to be done. So everybody wants to know what exactly needs to be done. No one wants to hear it from the person next door, the person you told 5 seconds ago. They want to hear it right from you. So you get the source of truth. So make sure you block off time for thinking, because if you're all day answering questions, you have no time to do the deep thought required to build your spec. So in terms of work-life balance, protect your time. You choose. Do you want to work 24/7 or you want to work 9 to 5? Set those limits in place. Communicate to everyone that this is your working hours, right? Or this is how you want to do things. Maybe you have an office hours that's public. You have a sign-up form. You get to choose how you work in the workplace, people have to respect your choice. That's how it works. If someone only can take emails and doesn't do Teams messages, unfortunately, you have to do emails. We have to respect the way people want to work, and you have to accommodate. And if you don't like working with someone, then try to find a way to work around them or work with people above or below them so that you can still get what you need done in those rare cases as well.
Perfect. Just scrolling up here. We've still got quite a few coming through. We'll try and go back to going through these as quick as we can. I think, hi, Luo, we're going to get to your questions in a second here too. And it looks like you've asked quite a few. So we'll try and see if we can tackle a bunch of them at once here for you. But I have a master's in innovations management, but no portfolio. How can I work for a startup as a volunteer if you know any platform?
How can you work as a volunteer? Same thing. You got to go to the incubators in your city or like meetup events and see what problems people have and just say, I'll work as a product manager and just solve them for you. Just gain some exposure to it. You could message me on LinkedIn and say, hey, I'm particularly interested in the finance space, if that's what you're really passionate about, and say, this is how I would solve this problem that you're facing. And then maybe we can have a chat and then maybe we could do something there. But really just think about like, where are there problems that your efforts can derive value to? And if you're looking for just like how to market yourself to those startups, because you're like, wait, how am I going to approach them? Well, you're there to help solve a problem. So have an idea before you come in. So if you see a problem at that incubator that you like, say, well, I'm really passionate about the medical space. I have a lot of personal issues I've found in medical space I want to solve. Great. Go to them with an approach, with a plan or an idea and tell them, this is what I'd like to do for you guys. Are you interested? Or this is what I'd like to do for your team. Is that something I can help you guys work on, right? So how can you build it into their organization? And you can pick who you want to work with, right? So that's the beauty of it. You can go to the entrepreneurship event. You can say, oh, I like that like all female team. I want to work with them. I like this team that's like kind of like all internationals. They have that global mindset that I'm looking to learn from. Like you pick what your intention is and just make sure it's aligned with the startup that you approach as well. Don't just go for anyone because you might not be passionate about, biology. And then you might be like, oh my God, I'm doing product management for biology. It's so boring. Maybe I don't know what you like.
That's very true. All right. So yeah, Hai has answered or asked 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 questions here. So maybe we'll just focus on those ones real quick and try and get through each of them there. What do you say to the ITIL core services managers that don't believe there's a need for product management practices?
Great question. So the only time people say this statement is when they've worked with bad product managers. And the ironic part is there are a lot of bad product managers because there are people who are a little bit lazier, who are just like, I don't want to like ask the customer 5 whys. Like they just told me they need a budgeting app. I'm just going to go build them a budgeting app. Can you build a budgeting app? They say to their engineers. Engineers are like, sure, we'll build you a budgeting app because you're not giving us any requirements. So yes, if you're not doing depth, you don't need product managers because they're just business people. It doesn't make a difference. But what you need, the reason why you need product management is because you need someone who's sitting with the customer, who's going deep into their workflows, and who has an innovative mindset to actually solve it. And you might be sitting here and you might be like, well, I do that. I'm a service manager. I help the clients set up things. I know their exact problems. I work with them. Why can't I just do that? You could. You can transition from service manager to become a product manager, but you need to be able to actually translate those solutions into a viable product. And the hard part about doing that is thinking about all the dependencies and correlations of building something, because you're not just building an idea from scratch, right? You're not just building your own Power BI plugin because you could do that on the side. You can do that at any time. But you're building into a holistic product. When you think about Notion or a video conferencing platform, there's millions of components. I can't just go and throw my app at the top of the screen. I need to figure out how to get my consumers to the app, right? How do they know that the share screen button exists? How do they know that they can raise their hand in this meeting, right? How do they know that if they click into settings, they can turn on noise cancellation? Maybe that's a dumb placement. Maybe I would have assumed it was closer to the microphone, right? Because maybe it only appears a push notification when someone's talking behind me. There's like, oh, would you like to do noise cancellation? That's really smart. That would make sense, right? Because it's contextual. So that contextualization, that deep thought is usually what's missing. And that what could be the cause of why you think there might not be a need for product manager, because you haven't had a great PM that's done that deep thinking work.
Amazing. I think that noise cancellation feature is new too. I didn't see that before until today on this platform, I should say. All right. Mick Kerson's a big voice for the transition from project to product. which is great. But for more traditional orgs living in the product, in BRM and architect life, how would you facilitate the transition from project to product?
Great question. So BRM and architecture industry is still a little bit out of date with some of their processes, as many industries are other than the tech sector. In this case, what you need to do is you need to understand where the market's heading. AI is going to do the job of a project manager. Asking people for timelines, deliverables, deadlines, basic questions like that, which is just information gathering or information retrieval and delivery, is very basic. It's not really, I mean, it's only a job now because nothing else can do it. But with our project management tools and preferably with AI that can talk to people, because the problem with the project management tool is that you have to actually go on the tool. And most people won't want to do that because we're humans. We don't want to live on the computer. We want to live in real life. So it's faster to just nudge someone and be like, look, I'm a project manager. I went and I tapped that person and got the information. Amazing. And sometimes it's more complex than that because there's a lot of other things moving. But AI will replace a big portion of that workload slowly. So the reason what you need to do to transition out of that is you need to think about, okay, if I'm not a project manager, what am I? Am I a supply chain optimization? Because we know we need wood to build the building. Am I a product manager because I'm thinking about the type of wood we're using? Instead of just using regular wood or pine wood, we're using like this engineered hardwood. And we can now build 10 more floors with the exact same quantity of material, right? How can you think about solving the problem more efficiently at that depth, right? The type of wood, the way we build it, the way things are shipped, all that type of, every single one has like a massive amount of opportunity. No one has time to look at it. As your time frees up, you'll have more time to do those sort of actions, higher level thinking. That's what you should be looking at now to get an edge before that time will be forced upon everyone with the AI wave.
Amazing. Okay. Another great question. Hi. All right. What's your take on people saying Teams is larger than Slack? Laggier?
What's this saying? This is saying is larger, or what is this? Larger or lighter? Can you put a comment in the chat?
Yeah, let us maybe just retype that question in, and we'll or throw it in the chat if they're still in here.
Teams is, what is that saying? What's your take on people saying Teams is? Can somebody see that? I can't scroll down further.
Was it at the top now? No.
Probably larger. Okay.
Chat.
If it's larger,
yeah, we'll just larger.
Great question. I see what you're asking. The product versus distribution question. Love this question. Let's do. Well, the truth is, it is larger. Okay, Teams is more popular than Slack just based on distribution alone and based on the fact that it's bundled with M365 and it's a proper legal enterprise solution, and Microsoft just has decades of experience with it. But the reason I want to answer the essence of this question, which is why, like, should I do distribution or should I do product? There is 3 domains to a business, although commonly we refer to it as 2, which is build and sell. But there is the execution of build. Like, can you actually build it? Because first you have the idea, but then can you actually build it? So the product is like, what do you want to build? The engineering is like, can you actually build it? And then the sales is like, can I market and can I distribute it? And that distribution process is super critical. Because if you're just building stuff, the consumers will not come, right? There's that famous phrase, build and they will come, which is just like a sarcastic phrase because they will not actually come. So what do you need to do in the distribution place? You need to think about at the product level, who am I building it for and who is the persona? Because the better your persona is, the better your distribution will be. That's how you can contribute to the distribution conversation. If you tell someone I need students at this university, boom, as a marketer, I can go right to that university's contacts, get the contacts I need, set up events, and I have your consumers right in front of you. And then it's just a test of whether your statements and hypotheses are true or false. But if you tell me you're building a budgeting app and you don't tell me who you're targeting, I'm like, okay, well, do I market it to the world? That's like super expensive. Do I have millions of dollars of ad budget? Like, what am I doing, right? So you throttle distribution with your lack of alignment and clarity.
Amazing. All right. Will there ever be a problem of having too many products in a company? I'm sure probably. I don't know. Maybe issues related to overly complicated designs or users overwhelmed with buttons, functions, etc.
No, never. Because there's always great designers who will be able to architect the ideas in a way that it doesn't feel like there's too many products. You look at an iPhone, right? There are billions of features in an iPhone. Do you feel like there's billions of features in an iPhone? No, of course not, because they've abstracted away, they've hidden it, they've made it simpler, they've made it accessible. Now, some things they do are questionable, right? Like that swiping down from the top of the screen. Like, how would you even know to swipe down? I always love that one when I show it to like people who are not iPhone users. They're like, how would I know to swipe down at the top of the screen? No one would know. There's no UI indication. There's nothing that tells you that. So those are always hilarious. But it's just a design challenge. It's an information architecture problem. And so if you have that ability to solve those problems, you can build as complex as you'd like to build. It's like asking, like, is it a problem if you have too many rooms in a house? Not necessarily. You just have to have the right layout.
Yeah, exactly. I was going to say there'd be a problem if you have too many bad rooms or if you have too many bad products in a company, but too many functioning working products is probably not a problem. Yeah. Cool. All right. Do you guys divvy up the PM role into outbound and inbound? I'm assuming he means at Microsoft. If so, what's your reason for doing so? If not, has that thought come up? And where was there ever a need, or was there never the need?
So we do a little bit of inbound and outbound, but the thing is, Microsoft is a massive company. We have massive events like Ignite, M365 conference, Developer Insiders, all sorts of things that like us product managers cannot be spending all the time monitoring the forums of. There's just too much setup and requirements that are done for just running an event itself. So there is an outbound team as well that helps out. There's a sales team, there's a CPM team. We have every team that you could ever require, which is great. So we have a lot of resources. Now, sometimes because we're shipping so many projects, those resources are always at max capacity. So sometimes you have no resources, which is always funny. But the nice part about having such a large organization and a lot of revenue is that you can break up the processes to get more time in a specific domain. Most people in a job right now, just as an FYI, are doing a generalist kind of role because there's not enough time to go super deep on something. Product manager is kind of like that first gateway into like, can I go super deep into something that traditionally we have not been super deep on? We just had ideas, we threw them out, we built them, we launched them, we're good to go. It's kind of like the equivalent of a product manager is kind of like a researcher, right? There's like a few researchers doing some innovation on battery cell technologies. But most people are just packaging the cells and then shipping batteries and just rebranding them differently, Duracell, Energizer, whatever you want. So your team will be structured in different ways. It just depends on the resources you have.
Makes sense. That makes sense. Okay. I'm sure Microsoft buys other companies' products as well and offers it to their employees. Do you guys employ a product owner manager type role in bringing in a third-party product to Microsoft's internal employees as customers to ensure that it fulfills a business capacity or capability?
100%. Even for products we ship internally, we test with Microsoft internal employees because Microsoft is a huge organization. If I launch something in Teams, it doesn't even go to all of Microsoft first. It goes to all the Teams employees first. Then it goes to some external customers. Then it may go to all of Microsoft, which is like people at LinkedIn, people at GitHub, people at these other organizations. Now, I don't talk to them because the organization's so big, but we test with like our release process involves every employee in the company being a tester of the product before it goes out.
Makes sense. That makes sense. Okay. Do you guys write the user stories and acceptance criteria? If so, you guys use PTP, pre-trig post for it. How do you evaluate and prioritize your user stories and bundle up your feature sets?
Okay, so we do write the user stories, of course. We do write the acceptance criteria, and kind of some people write in their metrics section, like performance metrics, reliability metrics, things like that as well. We use a framework that's a little bit simpler, okay, that is actually better because then everyone understands it, because if you try to be too technical, then you alienate your audiences. So unlike other disciplines where it might be cool to say we do a lot of complex things and use very like industry-specific acronyms, in product management, you want to try and avoid that because you're working with a lot of disciplines who are not product managers. So instead of using PTP, we actually use P0, P1, P2. And instead of using P0, P1, P2, we actually just map it to must do, should do, can do, which basically means what do we need to do, must do, what do we need to ship before we release, okay? We won't release if we don't ship these. What should we do? Like we really should do this before release, but we can get away with not doing it, but really try your best to get it in, right? Or fast follow with it, right? Ship it right after. And what can we do? We'd love to do this. You have extra time, go build these fun animations and make it really pretty. But those are optional. We don't care if those get in or don't get in. Okay?
Amazing.
Great prioritization.
All right. How to transition from brand manager to product manager role? What additional skills would you need to acquire?
Quite a few. It's quite a big jump, but it's not impossible. It's really just the same thing of find out how to measure products. I think that's one of the biggest ones that like one of the biggest hard technical skills that people need is how can you measure success? If you can't measure success, you cannot be a product manager because then you don't know what you're doing. You're just being an idea generator at that point. So think about what are the products we've recently released as a brand manager? What are the products we've recently released? How have they performed? Are they doing well? Are they doing bad? Can you start thinking about that at your current job before you do the transition so you have that leg up because you've already done that work on your own?
That makes sense. Let me take a look here. So I think we've got 4 more questions in here. Do you foresee AI encroaching into some entry-level product manager jobs? Is AI forcing the PM role to evolve as a result? That's a cool question too. Is there evidence at Microsoft of this happening?
Do we foresee AI encroaching into some of the entry-level product manager jobs? Yes and no. Like the AI allows you to write the specs very, very well, but only on topics it's familiar with, because the data set is only from topics that it has access to. Its future forward-looking projections and innovation mindset is still not there yet. So I think for entry-level PMs that are doing some basic things like build a notification system, AI can do that for you easily, no problem, because there's many notification systems. But if you're doing something more niche or complex, like how do we get users to do this voice isolation stuff, like discover it in an easy way, it may struggle with that at some points. And that's where a senior PM would need to come in and really think hard about that problem or bring the right stakeholders in to get that problem resolved. Is there evidence of this happening? No, we hire everyone, new grad PMs, senior PMs, staff PMs, all sorts of levels. It hasn't affected us yet. We may be more efficient with our time to write specs faster, or at least have the template faster. But it's not affecting anything right now. There is actually, though, an industry trend where there are more senior product manager jobs opening up than junior ones. But that's just we don't know why that's happening. It could be the AI thing. It could be just need. A lot of companies have been laying off a bunch of roles, so companies may just be trying to hire those roles into one role higher than a junior, which might be considered a new grad role.
That makes sense. Okay. How would you come up with the NSM for your product?
NSM for your... Okay, great question. I'm going to pause here for a second. Before I answer this question, I want to know from those who rated the experience like a 9 or less, what would you like to see in the last like 2-3 minutes while I'm answering these questions to bump that to a 10? Just curious. Always love getting feedback. How would you come up with the NSM for your product? Can someone just expand on the NSM acronym so I don't make another mistake here?
I was just going to say, I'm not sure what that one is yet. So, well, hi, you've asked quite a few. You're probably still here engaged. Feel free to elaborate there.
North Star metric. Got it. Okay. How would I come up with the North Star metric? There's 2 ways for a North Star metric. There is the technical product North Star metric, which is like we're going to measure the number of clicks, and the number of clicks is going to really tell us if it's used. But then there's the customer success North Star metric, which is what I actually prefer people use instead, which is just because they've clicked on it, right? Just because they use the budgeting app doesn't mean they have avoided debt. So can you make sure that they don't enter a debt phase? If you can make sure that they are not adding a debt account into their budgeting system, then you've accomplished it, right? So you need to make sure that your North Star metric is aligned with your true customer's goal. Okay, so it really means solving the problem completely, not just being very technical as a PM and saying, success metrics, number of clicks on the insights page to measure usage, because usage doesn't necessarily mean true success. Okay, great question.
All right. Do you suggest a product manager have a PMP cert? If not, is there a certain certification you recommend to make trained, educated product managers stand out?
Okay, great question. I'll answer Michael's questions at the end because it's more of a summary question there. But PMP certifications is great if you're doing program management or project management. At the product manager level, it's helpful because it allows you to better coordinate with teams, but it's not required. Okay, you don't need it. I wouldn't say stop to only apply after you get one. I probably wouldn't even say to get one. What I would recommend is you start building products and living the experience in an applied context of a product manager, because that will teach you much more than a PMP. It's like education, right? Education is knowledge, certificates are knowledge, but the application of it is key, because application means you can actually do it. That's why I kind of like circuit streams like course outline, because it's more on the applied product building than just like, okay, cool, here's how a product works, right? So even after the session, this is just knowledge I'm sharing with you. You actually have to apply it. These action points, these bullet points, these spec writing tips, you have to use them in your product specs to improve them. You can't just hear about it and say, okay, now I'm a great product manager, because it's just the talk itself, okay? I wouldn't recommend any certain certifications. I would just try to get training experience, circuit stream, volunteering, whatever you need to do to just get something in your hands that is, and if you like a more structured formal environment, then probably circuit stream if that's what you prefer. Because I know some people work in a more structured context, some people work in a more unstructured context. They just go and do YouTube videos. If that's your just watch the YouTube videos, but build as you're watching the YouTube videos. Great question.
Yeah, just get the experience in any way you can, basically, yeah. Okay. What's your take on the platform first approach for technologies to be built on? Some obvious boons are less tech debt, quicker to market, less need for hi-fi mocks, etc.
Great question. Yeah. So yes, you don't need the high fidelity mocks, as you can quickly prototype things, but it's really more of a prototyping tool. Those kind of things like Bounce you might be referring to, or some other products, are great for when you just want to quickly validate something or see if it's going to work. But when you're trying to solve a consumer job, sometimes it's not easy enough, especially in 2024, as more problems get solved, to kind of do those quick, easy ones at the top. So you may need a more custom or more refined solution. Now, at the end of the day, a problem is a problem. Once it's solved, it's solved. It doesn't matter if you're using an Excel sheet in the backend, doesn't matter if you're using a MongoDB database or whatever you're using. All it matters is, have you solved the customer problem? If you can do that, at scale with a platform solution, go use a platform solution. If you can't, and you need a custom engineering team and a custom design team because something is super specific, go get that team and do it like that. But it's always easiest to validate as quickly as possible and get the information as fast as possible. So if you can even validate without a platform, like just by asking the customer or telling them what you're thinking, or even just a rough sketch, and that's good enough, then that could be just as useful as well. Even a Figma prototype, right? Just draw some designs on Figma, prototype it very quickly, and then you can just test that. You don't even need to use one of those platforms and learn their syntax and all that stuff. Awesome.
Makes sense. Okay, we've got two more in here. Job market potential for brand managers versus product managers.
Product manager jobs have increased by 6 to 10% in the last 30 days. So I think they are on the rise, especially with the amount of PMs that have been laid off. There's a lot of opportunity. Now there's also a lot of supply, so there's that as well. But brand managers are more unique. It's more of a specialization kind of thing. So I mean, it depends on the context, depends on the type of brand managing you're doing, of course. It depends. I mean, it depends on you as well. Like, if you have experience in brand management and that's what you're already doing, probably double down on it if it's what you love. If you're just switching to product management because you heard, oh my God, jobs are increasing there, let's go there, might not be the best path to do because you might not actually like it. But what you can do, you can also validate yourself, right? So ask yourself, do I truly like this? Like, do a little bit of volunteering, do a little bit of learning. Do I actually like what I'm hearing about this? Because this is only a 1 hour, 2 hour presentation. Go experience it for 3 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours across a few weeks and see if you like it. Heck, even do the Circuit Stream course and then see, do I even like what I did at Circuit Stream? Right? Do I like doing product management at Circuit Stream? You could, how much of the course costs could save you, more important than money, but time at the end of the day with your life on what direction you're trying to do. Because wasting 6 months, 12 years, however many time in an industry you don't want to be in is not good for your life intentions and making sure you're heading in the path that you want to be in. Especially if you want to go into brand management and be like a CDO at the end of the day, like a chief design officer.
I was going to say CDO, you got to,
yes,
no more acronyms.
Heard the voice of my
all right. Thanks, Ralph. I want to dig deeper into product management and learn more aspects from external sources. aside from user specs, what are some other crucial topics, things that you suggest for us to learn more about?
I'd say one that's really important that goes unmentioned a lot of the times is communication. And what I mean by that is communicating effectively and clearly. So a fun exercise for everyone to do is look at your messages in your work chats or your student chats or your group chats with your friends and count how long does it take to reach the conclusion that you wanted to drive, right? To get that meeting scheduled, to get the group aligned, right? How long did it take you? If it took you 4 or 5 messages to schedule a meeting with someone, that's too long. That's not good communication skills. When I schedule meetings with people, I can schedule them in 2 messages, one from me, one from them, that's it. Worst case, 3 messages max. So how do you communicate more effectively to drive action? And so look at your messages, see what could I have done differently here to speed that conversation up. Write it down, create a template for yourself if you need to, when I need to schedule a meeting with someone, this is the message I use. Okay, and then start using it and see if it works and derives the outcome that you want. That's one skill I'd highly practice because this a lot of people actually don't have it. A lot of people think they do because communication. I'm talking right now. I know how to communicate because I'm talking, but that's not what communication actually is. Great question.
Amazing. Okay, and then we had some stuff in the main part here. I rated the experience 10. Oh wait, hang on. Let me go above that. What should my main takeaway from this intro as somebody exploring the idea of becoming a PM?
Great
is that
question.
newer? Or is that from? No,
that's a new question. Yeah, let's just end the session off with this great question here. So, okay, we've talked about a lot. We went in depth on a lot of things as well, and we gave a lot of real life actionable examples. There's a lot of things you can do after the session with your life in the next few hours. The recommendation is think about, do I like what I'm hearing? Do I like what product management is? Try it. Go take anything, an idea, something you're looking at right now. Think about, can I improve this? If you're struggling to improve it, take something else. Can I improve that? If you're struggling to improve that, think, okay, do I have a vision of anything that I want to improve? Do I have a problem that I want to solve? How can I write a document? Go on Google Docs, write a document, 1-page document, with all the components we discussed today. Hopefully, Tyler will send that email out shortly with the deck and everything, and then you'll be able to use that as a guideline for your document. Or just search up product specs on Google and see what comes up and use a template from there to just get started. And ask yourself, am I enjoying this? And if you're enjoying this and if it's something you want to do more of, then invest in it, right? Go and do the course at CircuitStream, go and do a certificate for something if you'd like to, go on YouTube and start learning some things on your own if you'd like to just experience a little bit more. But really put yourself into that industry and get more exposure so you can understand the full range of the role. Because if you like specs, chances are, even if you don't like 20% of everything else, you'll enjoy 80% of the job, and that's more than what most people enjoy in their jobs today. Like most people don't even enjoy 10% of their job. So if you can enjoy 80, that'd be amazing. Hopefully you enjoy everything. It's 100. I love my job. Sometimes the meetings frustrate me, but I think everyone gets frustrated by meetings, quite frankly. So yeah, just try it out, see if you enjoy it, and have a great experience with it. And reach out, ask people questions, ask Tyler questions about the program as well. And review the recording if you missed anything or you joined late, so that way you get all the information you need. And yeah, good luck on your next steps and journeys, and hopefully you get to where you want to be.
Ralph, huge thank you for doing this session today. Not a chance could I have presented. I mean, I'm in the marketing role. I'm not a product manager myself, but just everything you've shared is invaluable. This was amazing. I can tell by the audience engagement. We've been here for over 2 hours and we still have 30 lovely people in the room here with us. So thank you guys for holding on and sticking with us. But Ralph, huge thank you. Thank you so much for doing this today.
Thank you everyone for listening and giving me the opportunity to share some knowledge. And yeah, hope everyone has a great rest of their day. And that was a long session for sure, but I'm glad we went through it and got through all the questions as well.
Yeah, it went quite a bit longer than we thought, but that was great. And Ralph, I'll connect with you offline, but I'd love to have you back for another session. I'd love to invite you to the student project pitch days too, because just the feedback you're getting even in this session would be so valuable for our grads as they're coming out of the courses too. So And I can see in the chats, lots of thank you here from the people who are still in here. Thank you guys for sticking with us and staying for this session. Like Ralph said, we are going to send out a recording afterwards. So check your inbox probably over the next hour. You should receive that. If you guys have any questions for me or for Ralph directly, you can always just add us on LinkedIn. Like Ralph said, maybe just shoot it with a note. Let us know kind of how you connected with us so we know which way or where you came from. And then if you have any questions about the courses or if you're looking to get registered for our bootcamp, you can reach out to me directly at tyler@circuitstream.com. You can also reach out to the admissions team, admissions@circuitstream.com. But if you want me to do a little bit of a warm intro between me and the admissions team, I can do that for you guys too. But all right, we'll end it there. It's been a super long session. You guys all have a fantastic Tuesday. Look for this recording, and we'll look forward to seeing you in the next event. All right. Bye, everybody. Bye. Thanks, Ralph.